The top is over here on the table. Give it to me, Blake. Right, thanks.
Blake, let's go.
Here, take control. Happy Monday morning, everybody. We will get started in shortly. Just make sure everything is in place where it's supposed to be. Let's see. Is this in place? Put a comment in the live studio on Rumble Studio, but I'm not seeing the comments show up, so I don't know if it's an issue with, let's see, graphics, live chat. Campaigns. Let me try that one more time. Still not showing it. Still not. Oops. One moment to make sure everything is in place as it's supposed to be, and we'll get started shortly. We're just checking on a couple clerical things on my end. All right, well, it says we're out. We'll see when it starts popping off. So, good morning, YouTube, Rumble Studio, X. Let me see it. Good things I can cross-reference on X, see if we are live. We are live on X. Good morning, Rumble Studio. Good morning, YouTube. Let's see if I can check. I'm not checking YouTube. All right, so we are live on Facebook. That is confirmed. We are live on LinkedIn. Confirmed. We are live on Instagram. Confirmed. We are live on TikTok. Confirmed. So those of you who missed me a little bit or a lot last week off TikTok, I am fresh out of TikTok incarceration. We are back free now, to speak freely within the parameters of TikTok's rules. So I can speak as free as TikTok allows me to be. As far as all the other streams, you can pretty much say what you want. So what we're going to talk about here today, if y'all didn't see the topic is the Epstein situation. I mean, I don't know if there is an Epstein file. We don't know if there is an Epstein list. People keep talking about it as if there is, but we're not quite sure. Is there actually Epstein list? Are there actually Epstein files? We don't know, at least as far as today. I think maybe some of you have concluded that there are, and they're just not putting it out. Some of you may have concluded that there are not because they told us that there aren't any, or maybe you concluded there aren't because of some other reason. But let's get into it. We got a lot that we need to get to here, and we got about what I'm going to do here so all of you know, all of you can have the proper expectation. We're going to take till about 8:45 to go through this material, which gives me about 39 minutes from now. So I'm setting my timer. We do things on time over here. And actually, we do things early. So as you can see, my timer, we got about 38 minutes left. So I'm going to get through the material. Then we'll take another 45 minutes or so at the most and get to the comments. So we will be finished by 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Everybody got that? 9:30 a.m. We'll be out of here, and you'll be free to move about as you wish. You can move about as you wish right now. You can just listen to this. You don't really have to be looking. You can listen. But if you're on TikTok, you do need to be tapping the screen. We got 1,000 likes already. So let's get the likes up. Tell me where you are checking in from. Tell me your locations. Everybody who's checking in on every app. Where are you checking in from? What are your locations? For some reason, Rumble Studio is not showing I'm posting a comment here, but for whatever reason, the comments are not coming up. So I don't know what happened here, why the comments are not showing on Rumble Studio. But anyway, I do see that there are people coming in, so I know it's working. So y'all tell me where you are checking in from. Let's see what we got over on Instagram. Tuscaloosa, Alabama in the building. King Works, everything amazing. Checking in from Kentucky. Brandon Joseph from Florida. Shout out to you all over there on Instagram. Marky Man 007, good morning. Classy E, good morning. Yeah, they had me locked up for most of last week. Classy E. I had a 1-week suspension that I served. Luckily, the suspension overlapped with the 4th of July. So that day I wasn't going to be on there anyway. And then the weekend when I didn't go live. So 3 days got gifted, but then we still missed 4 more. Newburgh, New York is in the house. Big Kev checking in from New York. Sacramento's in the house. Ohio's in the building. Valley Center, Kansas. I had been to Kansas, actually. I was several towns in Kansas, but Valley Center I had not been to. Phoenix, I've definitely been to. Shout out to Phoenix. I got some friends out there. Jordan said, I remember your basketball videos. Me too. Shout out to the people who used to watch the basketball videos. California's in the building. KDRN, thanks for the follow. Richard said, what's it going to take for you to shut up? I had to get suspended on TikTok again. So I don't go talk to the people on TikTok. Ryan, I don't know who that person is. A few people have left that comment. I don't know who that person is. Vincent. Avante checking in from Huntsville, Alabama. So we got Alabama represented, 2 different places. Detroit is in the building. So let's get into this, folks. So the Justice Department and FBI recently released a memo. For those of you who didn't hear he's a soccer player. I never heard of that guy. All right, so Justice Department and FBI released a memo stating that they found no Epstein, quote-unquote, client list. This client list that everybody's been talking about, there may not be a client list. At least that's according to the FBI and according to the Department of Justice. Now, no evidence of any blackmail involving powerful individuals, and they confirmed that Jeffrey Epstein passed away by taking his own life in 2019 when he was locked up. He was incarcerated on his charges. Now, this is in conflict with some earlier statements. Tired Joe checking in from Cedar Lake. I see you. Good morning. This is in conflict with some earlier statements from Attorney General Pam Bondi. I don't know that much about Pam Bondi. I know she comes from the state of Florida where she had worked here. And I did listen to her confirmation hearing when she was chosen by Trump to be part of her cabinet. I actually listened to all of those confirmation hearings. And for the most part, they were generally boring, generally long. But Pam Bondi handled herself very well in the confirmation hearing. That's all I know about her. But a lot of people are mad about her right now because some earlier statements she made was alluding to the fact that there are files. And it's on my desk is what she said. And then she's kind of playing the semantics game this last week or so. And people are mad about FBI officials like Kash Patel, who was on the Joe Rogan show. And he seemed to be kind of word salading and dancing around the question when Joe Rogan was trying to pin him down on, do you have actual Epstein files? And he danced around it in a political way. And Kash had hinted at explosive new evidence. Bondi as well, and now we have nothing. So critics across the MAGA base, including Elon Musk, who's already outed himself as a critic, and many others who have outed themselves as MAGA fans, but then mad because of what they see MAGA doing. They have accused this current administration of either, or maybe both, backtracking. They've gotten a whole bunch of backtracking accusations, a whole lot of hiding information accusations, while top House Democrats, such as Jamie Raskin, they're demanding more transparency and access to any Epstein files that may mention Donald Trump. We're going to get into all of this in a moment. Now, at the White House, the press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, she defended the memo, stating that what Bondi referred to was that when she said it was on my desk, she was referring to the entire file. I have the whole file on my desk, not necessarily a client list on my desk. Now, again, this becomes semantics. There's a whole lot of argument that can be made about all of this, and we're going to get into that in a minute. And what Bondi referred to was a whole file, not a list. Now, this isn't just some political flip. At least it doesn't look like it. It raised a lot of questions. People are questioning Pam Bondi's credibility. They're questioning if she is her trustworthiness. Donald Trump just recently, I believe it was yesterday, he basically came out and co-signed Pam Bondi, because some people were saying, including Megyn Kelly, I heard her late last week, alluding to the fact that Pam Bondi might be getting fired, or she might not make it the next 6 months through this term because of the way she faltered and her blunder in dealing with this whole situation. And there are more questions about credibility, transparency, how investigations into high-profile crimes are handled when powerful names are possibly involved. So there's a few things to be said about this, but let me introduce myself first. I stopped introducing myself, and every once in a while when I'm doing these, people ask, who are you, what do you do, etc. So let me introduce myself. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. My background is in professional sports. Played basketball professionally for 9 years. And I stopped playing. It's been 10 years since I stopped playing professional basketball. I run a business now. A company is called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here, very simple terms. We take the discipline and structure that everybody knows they need and everybody knows they want. We turn those into performance and measurable results. You can find out more about that by going to the link in my profile on each one of these apps. There are links in my profile that all end up taking you to the same places. Everything that has Work on Your Game on it, we own it. And if you see anybody using Work on Your Game and it's not me, let me know. We'll take them to court and we'll sue them. So anyway, we own everything. Work on Your Game. So just go to the link in my profile. You can learn more about our coaching programs. We have different levels of coaching. We have a bunch of books that you can get. You can see some of them behind me. These are my books, at least the ones you can see. We have Dre GPT, which is my AI chat bot, where you can talk to a bot that has been trained on my frameworks, my style, my systems, and my materials, and is available 24/7 and never gets annoyed no matter how many questions you ask. So you can go to get Dre GPT. You can access that for free. And what else? We got the Circle Group Coaching Program. We got our full consulting and coaching program. We got our books, and we got everything else. Just go to the link in my profile. Y'all can learn more about that. So let's get into the topic. Now, first thing is Pam Bondi, when she first came into, actually before everybody came in, before Trump even won the 2024 election, Donald Trump and the people, his supporters, were all running along saying, we're going to expose the Epstein thing. We're going to show everybody what happened with Epstein. And we're going to give you all the details on Epstein. And we're going to get to the bottom of this whole Epstein situation. So I think all you know who Epstein is. Sorry, there's a documentary about Epstein. I believe it's on Netflix. Y'all can go find it and watch it. I did watch that documentary years ago when it came out. And it was an interesting, for lack of a better term, documentary. Now, Donald Trump was talking about this Epstein thing because people have been talking about Epstein the same way they talked about JFK. Release the files, let's find out what actually happened. And MLK, release the files, let's find out what actually happened. Because everybody's claiming that they want to get to the bottom of this whole situation. So Donald Trump would rile up his base a bit by mentioning Epstein. Now, is Epstein the reason that Donald Trump won the 2024 election? No. But did he use it? Yes, he did. And the whole thing is, one of the reasons why politicians use things like this, these files that have been sealed for years and no one's actually seen all the files. They talk about this because a lot of American citizens have issues with the government, believing that the government is not trustworthy, the government is not transparent, that there's some deep state, that there are some dark secrets that have never been told and nobody's talking about it. And every president comes along saying, I'm going to expose all the deep, dark secrets of the government and tell y'all what exactly is happening, as opposed to what you're told is happening. We're going to tell you what's really happening. Every president has done this for years. The last 30 years, everyone I can remember, they all say they're going to uncover and show you something that the previous administration wasn't telling you about. So Donald Trump did use this as a tease. Now, the DOJ and the FBI conducted a thorough review, according to them. They did their own thorough review, and they're the ones telling that it was thorough. And they concluded there's no incriminating client list or evidence of blackmail hidden in the Epstein files. Now, this is the crux of the entire conversation. Going back to what we talked about a lot last week, which was the P. Diddy case, or I guess it's just Diddy now, the Diddy case. What some people are saying about the Diddy case is that it really wasn't about Diddy. That Diddy is from the music industry, of course, and there are a lot of people who are higher up on the food chain, the music industry, than even Diddy is. And he's noted to be a quote-unquote billionaire, but there are people higher up on the food chain than him. And a lot of people were saying that when he first got his houses raided last year, and they took all those tapes that he was filming stuff, that they are claiming that there's some people saying this, that there were a lot of people on those Diddy tapes besides just his girlfriends and those escorts that they were hiring. There were other people on those tapes as well. People who are higher up in the industry, celebrities that we thought, and people were dropping all these names like, oh, maybe this person will get called or this person. And then when the case came out, None of those names got mentioned. None of those people got, called to the stand, and none of them were roped into the case. And some are saying that this whole Diddy case was not really about Diddy. It was a show trial. First of all, trying to besmirch his character, which I talked about a ton. And also that they were basically trying to say, we got this footage. We didn't use most of this footage in the trial because there's things on these tapes that we don't want anybody to know about. We don't want the people on these tapes to get exposed. So we're going to make this whole trial about these other few things about Diddy. They finished with the Diddy case. Diddy may end up walking away, not even doing any more prison time than what he's done up to this point, or at least up until sentencing, because the whole thing is, again, this is the conspiracy. Let's just call it a conspiracy. I'm not even calling it a conspiracy theory because a conspiracy can still be true. Now, just because it's a conspiracy doesn't mean it's false. So some are saying, I'm just putting this on the record, that the Diddy case and the videos taken from Diddy, and I'll take questions at the end, by the way. And in 28 minutes, I'm going to start taking questions. All right, this is my timer. 28 minutes, we start taking questions. So the people are saying that the Diddy case was really a much bigger case than what they made it to be. They made it small because they just want to protect the people on those videos. And now they can say they did something, and then they can destroy all the footage and nobody will ever see that footage ever again. Again, these are some conspiracies being floated about. And again, when I say a conspiracy does not necessarily mean that it's not true. Doesn't mean that it is true. Doesn't mean that it's not true. So actually, we should just call it a theory. Instead of calling it a conspiracy, it's called a theory. So it's a theory that that's what happened. The theory here with the Epstein files is that everybody knows what the theory is because this is the current hot topic, that there are a whole bunch of people whose names we all know who are in those Epstein files. Now, I've talked about this a few times with the Epstein files. First of all, Jeff Epstein was a finance guy. He was a money guy. The way he got his money, just understand, the guy owned an island. So he had an island that was literally called Epstein Island. I don't know if that was the official name of it, but it was Epstein Island because the guy was an owner of an island. And on his island, he had a big house, and people would come to that island. He and his co-partner, I guess, his partner, Miss Maxwell, who is incarcerated right now, they would do whatever they were doing there. According to the documentary that came out many years ago, what platform was that documentary on? Was it on Netflix? Did any of you see that Epstein documentary? How many of you saw that documentary, the Epstein documentary? I believe it was on Netflix. Yeah, I remember watching it. It pretty much was that. So it was called Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich. It was called Filthy Rich. It came out in 2020. And the whole thing is about how he had this web of deception and terrible things he was doing to mostly young girls. Now, some are saying that some of these girls were barely legal to where it was legal, but they were like just over legal. And then others are saying that there were also girls there who were not legal at all, who were somehow, some way lured onto the island. Watch the documentary, is on Netflix. They were lured onto the island and they would be doing sexual favors in negative ways that they later came to regret and testified against Mr. Epstein for. And again, he would film a lot of this stuff. So allegedly, a lot of this stuff was on film. And Epstein would keep files of who was coming to his island, who visited the island, who was getting on his private plane. This guy owned an airplane. He owned an island. He had a whole bunch of big houses. This is who this guy was. He was a finance guy. And anyway, I'm bringing all that up. The fact he was a finance guy and he had money was because people are saying, well, he was connected to a whole bunch of known people. Let's be clear about something. We had to be fair here, ladies and gentlemen. Just because you shook hands with Jeff Epstein, maybe even did business with him, maybe even visited his island, maybe even were in a picture with him at a party, does not necessarily mean you were doing all the illegal stuff that he was doing. Same thing with P. Diddy. Diddy just went to trial for all these things that allegedly, he was accused of doing illegally, and we know what he got convicted of. There were a whole bunch of people who would go to Diddy parties. You've seen Jay-Z been at the party, Beyonce been at the party, Oprah was at the party, LeBron James was at the party, Jamie Foxx was at the party. A lot of people were at Diddy parties. That doesn't necessarily mean, just because you went to his party does not necessarily mean you were engaged in everything that man was doing in his life. It's just like if you know somebody and you are friends with them and you shake their hand or you work with them or you played basketball with them at the gym and then they get accused of a crime. Just because you know them does not mean you were doing the stuff that they got accused of. And it's a huge jump in logic. And it's a logic fail when people try to say, just because you were cool with this person who was doing this thing that we now know was illegal and wrong, that means you had to have been involved in the thing that he was doing. That's not necessarily true. So when you see these photos of Jeff Epstein standing next to, and Jeff Epstein and Ms. Maxwell standing next to Donald Trump, people are like, oh, well, Donald Trump was in pictures with Jeff Epstein, or he might have been in the files, or he might have visited Epstein Island. That doesn't necessarily mean he was doing anything wrong. Because again, Jeff Epstein made his money not by doing that. He made his money by being in finance. Is Donald Trump a money guy? I think we can say he is. So we would have to get the details. So we can't just go off of some surface level thing and say, well, this just because you're standing next to this person means you necessarily did this bad thing or this wrong thing. By the way, let me pause here. I don't want to pull Kevin Samuels on y'all, but y'all on TikTok, we have 5,000 likes. Let's get the likes up. Get the likes up. The way you get the likes up on TikTok is that you tap the screen. And when you tap the screen, there's a number in the top left corner. I don't know if y'all see the same thing that I see. But y'all see that number up there? This is what I can see. My view is I can see a number up here. It says 5.6K. Let's get that up to 10,000, folks. Can y'all see this up here? So we need to get this number up. All right, get this number up. And let's get it up to 10,000 likes. Now, you see how fast the number is going up right now while I'm reminding you all to like the live? Just do this the entire time, and I won't have to stop. I won't have to pull with Kevin Samuels. I don't know if y'all know who Kevin Samuels is. He's a guy who passed away 3 years ago, and he would do live streams talking about completely different topic than what I'm talking about. But if he didn't like how many likes he had on his live, he would stop his live. He would start playing some background music, and he wouldn't talk anymore until the lights got up. I don't want to do that. I don't want to pull with Kevin Samuels. But I will pull Kevin Samuels. So, like the live, let's keep the numbers up. All right, thank you. Keep the numbers up. Let's get up to 10,000 likes, folks. Please get us up to 10,000 likes. So, the DOJ and the FBI, they said they conducted a thorough review and that there's no incriminating evidence. And to add that, we say, okay. I mean, the DOJ and the FBI, they did their own investigation and they're basically self-reporting that they didn't find anything. That's kind of like people roll their eyes at that. Like, yeah, of course, you were saying that there's nothing that was found here. Does that necessarily mean that nothing was found? Not really. So critics are arguing that Pam Bondi's earlier comments, like the files are on my desk, you create these false expectations. And then you had that whole situation, if y'all remember, early in this current Trump administration, the White House or whoever, the administration invited a whole bunch of influencers, right-wing, MAGA-supporting influencers to the White House. Do y'all remember this event? They invited a bunch of them to D.C. It was like, who was it? It was Pasobic was one of them. The woman who runs Libs of TikTok, she was another one. There was several others. They all got invited to the White House. And it was another woman. She was just on Megyn Kelly this past weekend. I don't remember the woman's name. Any of you listen to Megyn Kelly? What was that woman's name she had on there? She just had her on Friday. And she was explaining, either Thursday or Friday, she was explaining what happened, the whole situation. And they go in there and they meet with Pam Bondi and they hand them all these binders that said Epstein files. It was like volume 1 or something like that. And then the files, they looked through the files. There wasn't anything in there other than the stuff that we already knew. So some of these influencers kind of looked bad. They kind of looked dumb because they're all like, oh, we got the Epstein files. But then it turns out they didn't really have anything. And they were thinking, or at least the way it was framed. Let me say it this way. The way it was framed was that the White House had called all these influencers who most of them made their names on social media. So remember that the Trump administration has always had a very antagonistic relationship with the traditional media, CNN, New York Times, etc. So what they did early in this administration was calling a bunch of internet influencer people who are kind of the new media, as we say, called those people to DC and said, we're going to give you all the exclusive access before we give it to the New York Times or CNN or any of these clowns. We're going to give it to y'all. And they gave them the Epstein files. And I remember it was on social media because it was trending. Oh, they gave the Epstein files to these new people, and a bunch of MAGA supporters were like, yeah, this is a way to shove two middle fingers in the faces of the traditional media because now they're giving the scoops to these influencers who help support MAGA. But then the files ended up being a whole bunch of nothing, a nothing burger, as Kevin O'Leary says. And they kind of looked bad because the influencers they got ridiculed because they got brought up there and didn't get anything that was worthwhile. And the administration looked bad because y'all made this seem like y'all were giving a scoop, but y'all were giving a whole bunch of nothing. So this is why people are kind of pissed off at Pam Bondi. So she said it was on her desk and it eroded trust when that didn't materialize. That is true. Now, the memo reaffirms that they say that Epstein did pass away by taking his own life. And any of you saw the footage, there was a video that came out. Maybe I saw it trending on social media last week. Only social media I use actively is X, by the way. So any of you want to follow me on X, my X account is Dre All Day. So I'll show you my X profile. My X profile looks like this. See that pink circle there? It's because I'm live right now. So shout out to the people watching me on X right now. It says 33 people watching me. So this is the only social media I actively use. I have accounts on all the apps and I post stuff, but I don't engage on any other app but X. So if you would like to engage with me on social media, please follow me on X and respond to something that I post and I will engage with you there. But any other app, I'm not responding to any comments. So anyway, this video came out and it was showing Epstein's cell, allegedly, at the night when he took his life. And there was a jump in the time right at 11:59 going to 12 a.m. And some are saying, oh, well, that's the minute. They took the minute out of the footage. That must be this was the conspiracy. I'm skeptical of that, even if I didn't hear anything, because what I later found out, they said that every night the tape resets. So there's like a minute gap there because they got to reset the film, reset the footage every night. And if nothing happens, they end up deleting the footage. And I was skeptical of that just in general, like right there at 11:59 and 59 seconds, all of a sudden now something happens. It just didn't sound right. Didn't sound right to me. But anyway, they are doing their own self-investigation. So many MAGA influencers, including Elon Musk. I don't know if Elon can even be considered MAGA anymore because he's talking about starting his own political party. They're saying that this is just a cover-up, and they're shaming the administration for not releasing more documents. Elon Musk is throwing it out there. He already threw it out there like 3 weeks ago that Trump was in the Epstein files. We're going to get to that in a second. Then he threw it out there. He said it somewhere on X last week that Steve Bannon, y'all know Steve Bannon, he's a big Trump supporter. He was very instrumental in the first run of the Trump administration, not as much in this one. He's still around. He has his own show, but he was very instrumental in the first run of the Trump administration rather, and is still very active and still has a very loud voice. Elon Musk threw it out there that Steve Bannon is in the Epstein files. Now, is that actually true? And it sounds like Elon Musk just throws stuff out there when he gets pissed off. It sounds like what he does. Now, one thing you should know, take into account that Elon Musk and Steve Bannon are not friends, because Steve Bannon was very vocally against the fact that Elon Musk was all on the front lines of MAGA and the Trump administration when Elon Musk wasn't even a Trump supporter back the first time through. When Trump was going through everything, Elon Musk wasn't around. Elon Musk only jumped onto the Trump train really in like 2024. He's like a convert into the MAGA, the MAGA religion, the MAGA congregation. And Steve Bannon was very vocal in saying, you're a convert, you sit in the back of the church. You don't come to the front and start preaching. You just got here. So Elon Musk and Steve Bannon are not friends. So Elon Musk saying that about Steve Bannon, I think you could take that with a grain of salt. Now, the DOJ clarified that Pam Bondi did say this, that Jeff Epstein had a whole lot of material. I got to be careful how I say this. TikTok is listening. He had a whole lot of material of underage children doing things that you shouldn't have on your hard drives, that you get arrested just for having it. Jeff Epstein had a whole bunch of that. That's what Pam Bondi said. Jeff Epstein had a whole bunch of this stuff on his hard drives that will never be seen because they need to protect the identities of those kids who were allegedly on these video files. Fair, fine. What had happened also, while I'm thinking of it, Donald Trump was having a cabinet meeting. He had all his cabinet members sitting around the table, and then he allowed the press to ask questions. And someone in the press asked him a question about Epstein. That's what kind of set this whole thing up. Someone asked him a question about Epstein, and Donald Trump feigned. I believe he was feigning, but it looked pretty real. He's pretty good at getting his point across. He came across incredulous that he was being asked a question about Epstein. He was like, Epstein, you're still asking questions about this creep and with this guy, this terrible guy. He was a terrible guy. We got all these other things going on like Texas and these great things that we're doing in this administration. I don't know why you're still asking about Epstein. He was basically kind of, what's the word I would use? He was dismissing it. He was being very dismissive of Epstein and dismissive of the question as if it was ridiculous of someone in the press to be asking the question. And then he turned to Pam Bondi after he kind of dismissed the reporter's question and says, ridiculous, you're even asking that question. It's not even important. Doesn't matter anymore. Do you even want to answer this question? The way he said to Bondi, and Bondi, I think she didn't kind of get the hint. What he was kind of alluding to her was she probably should have said, no, we don't need to address that anymore. It's over. But Pam Bondi actually answered the question. So she started answering the question and basically said that it was pretty much done. She gave her no answer of an answer. And that's kind of what made it look funny, too, because it looked like Pam Bondi kind of didn't get the wink from Donald Trump, which is to be just as incredulous as I am and dismiss the question so we can move on to something else. So it looks like Donald Trump doesn't really want to talk about the Epstein situation at all anymore. And then some people are taking that and they're running with it to give gas to their theory, the fuel to the fire, that, Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about Epstein anymore. Oh, he doesn't want to talk about Epstein anymore. That must mean that he is in the files. Let me ask a question. How many of you think Donald Trump is in the files? Yes or no? Yes or no, do you think Donald Trump is in the files that we will probably never see? Yes or no, do you think Donald Trump's in the files? Someone said he was campaigning on it. Yeah, I know. I said that earlier. Some said not on the island anyway. So I'm getting a bunch of no's and a bunch of yeses. So opinion is split on this. Here's what I say about this. The files, first of all, let's be clear what the files are. We don't know what the files are. We don't know what the files are. Now, Jeff Epstein had an airplane. And I believe the way it works with private planes, I don't own an airplane, but any of you who owns an airplane or know anything about it, I believe the way it works is that if you fly on someone's private plane, there is a documented log that you flew on that plane. So Jeff Epstein has a list, probably flight logs of who was on his private plane and or who actually went to Epstein Island. As I said at the beginning of this stream, just because you went to the island does not mean you committed a crime. Going to the island is not a crime. And again, Jeff Epstein was a businessman, so you could have been going there to do business. You could have went there for a party, like a above board party. All right, doesn't necessarily mean you were doing anything illegal just because you went to the island. Doesn't mean you did anything illegal just you got on the plane. Because Jeff Epstein could loan his plane to somebody else. Donald Trump would call him and say, "Yo, let me use your plane. Something's wrong with my plane." All right, you use my plane, and then you get on his plane. Now you're in the flight logs of his plane. Doesn't mean you did anything wrong. So just because you're in any file that has to do with Jeff Epstein, there's going to be a ton of guilt by association if these files ever do come out. But just because you're in the file does not mean you did anything wrong. Secondly, even if you went to the island, doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Third, people are like, well, Donald Trump might be in the files. That's the reason why he wants to dismiss this story and make it seem like a non-story. Doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Here's the issue. Jeff Epstein passed away in 2019. Who was the president from 2020 to 2024? And how those people feel about Donald Trump. I mean, all of you, I think most of you are older than 1 year old, right? Did y'all see what happened in 2024 when Donald Trump announced he was running for president again? Did y'all see what happened? Who orchestrated all that? Who organized all of that? Who okayed all of that? So who was the president from 2020 to 2024? Epstein was already passed. He was already gone. They already had all his stuff, all his files, went through his house, got everything, put Maxwell in jail. They got all the files from Epstein in 2019. A Democrat who was strongly against Donald Trump was the president from 2020 to 2020 or 2021. Yeah, 2021 to technically 2025. Joe Biden with his VP Kamala Harris. And you saw what happened in 2024. If you don't remember, there was the documents case down at Mar-a-Lago that was headed by special counsel Jack Smith. There was the fraud case in New York City headed by Letitia James. There was what was the one that the chubby guy in New York? What's that guy's name? Alvin Bragg. You had him doing that. What was his case? Alvin Bragg's case? I don't remember. So many cases I don't remember. What was Alvin Bragg's case? Somebody remind me. Mr. Alvin Bragg. His case was, somebody tell me what that case was for Alvin Bragg. So whatever that case was, Alvin Bragg had him in court in New York over that one. Then you had I think Alvin Bragg was the E. Jean Carroll case, I believe. Maybe it was somebody else. Maybe it was something else. Then in the state of Georgia, you had what was that woman's name? The Fonnie Willis thing. So they had all these cases that, again, if the Biden administration said, don't do that, ain't nobody doing it. That's the way it works. There's a chain of command in the government. If Joe Biden called Tish James and said, no, don't do that. If Joe Biden called Alvin Bragg and said, stand down, you're not doing it. I know that they technically have their own jurisdictions, but if he called and said, don't do it, it ain't happening. If he went to Jack Smith and said, no, don't do that, it wouldn't happen. If he called Fonnie Willis in Georgia and said, don't do that, none of these things would have happened. My whole point being is that we all know, whether you like Donald Trump or you don't, whether you are MAGA or you are anti-MAGA, whether you're a Trump supporter or you're a Trump hater, we all can 100% agree that the Democratic Party, when Donald Trump announced that he was going to run for president again, they were all doing everything in their power not to beat him in a free and fair election. That's not what they were trying to do. They were trying to make sure he couldn't even run. Is this true or not? Put true in the comments if that's true. Put no if that's not true. Even if you don't like Donald Trump, you have to admit this reality. We're having a logical adult conversation here. We all have to admit that. We all have to admit this is the case. They were trying to block him from running, not to beat him in the election. They were trying to stop him from running. So they were trying to get him off the ballot. Remember that at some point, I think it was Colorado, they had him off the ballot, that Donald Trump can't be on the ballot or whatever. Get the likes up, folks. Get the likes up, TikTok. We're at 27,000 likes. Let's get up to 30,000 likes. They were trying to stop this guy from being on the ballot because they didn't want him to run at all. Let me ask a question. Between those cases, so you had the fraud paperwork case. What was the Alvin Bragg case? Can somebody tell me what the Alvin Bragg case was? What was Alvin Bragg's case in New York against Donald Trump? Do I got to look this up? myself. The comments might be coming too fast for me to find it. What was the Alvin Bragg case against Donald Trump in New York in 2024? Alvin Bragg accused Trump. Oh, yeah, that's right. The hush money case. Thank you, Florida Governor. That's what it was. The hush money case, right? So you had the hush money case. The E. Jean Carroll was just trying to get money out of him, so that was a separate one. The hush money with Stormy Daniels, the fraud case with Tish James, the RICO case in Georgia with Fani Willis, and then the documents case at Mar-a-Lago with Jack Smith. All right, so they did all of that to try to make Trump look bad and sustain his name, and either come up with a reason why he would either be incarcerated so he can't run, or he's been invalidated from being on the ballot because you get convicted of this and this, you're not allowed to run for president. They were trying to come up with all of that. You're telling me that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, knowing that they're about to go against Trump, they knew Trump was going to be the nominee. As soon as he announced, I'm going to be the nominee, I'm going to run for president, they knew he would be the nominee, right? We all know that. You're telling me that they had access to the Epstein files and Trump's in it, and they didn't use that? Somebody explain that to me. Explain to me why they didn't use that. Because between the Tish James, Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis, Jack Smith, none of those, if they would have put out that Trump was in the Epstein files and proved that he was on the island multiple times and doing whatever he was doing, even if they just had the file, just by guilt by association, they would have put that out. That would have superseded all of these legal cases that they tried to use against him. And they all tried it and they all failed. That would have superseded everything. Why didn't they use that? Why didn't they use it? If Trump was in the files, why didn't they put that out? Somebody explain. I need that explained to me. Hey, son.
Can you make an apple?
An apple?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to make an apple. Can you sit up here while I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Look, we got the hearts back. All right, my son's here, so can we get the hearts up? You see the hearts?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell everybody to like the live?
Like the live.
Yeah. Say hi, TikTok.
Hi, TikTok.
Say hi to Instagram.
Hi, Instagram.
Hi, X.
Hi, X.
Hi, LinkedIn.
Hi, LinkedIn.
Hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
And hi to Rumble.
Hi, Rumble.
Okay, so now we're going to try to make an apple here. While I'm trying to get an answer to a question, son, can you explain to me why the Biden administration didn't put out the Epstein files if Trump was in it?
What? What?
Exactly. Exactly. So even my son understands, why didn't they put out the Epstein files if Trump was in it? Can you explain that?
What?
Why? Yeah, exactly. What? Why didn't they do it? Why didn't they put that out? He don't understand. I don't understand. Y'all don't understand. Why didn't the Biden administration put out the files if Trump was in the files? It just doesn't add up to me. If they had the files the entire time, they could have used that, just that alone, just that point alone. Let's say the Tish James case, the Alvin Bragg case, the Fani Willis case, and the Jack Smith case never even happened, but they showed Trump was in the Epstein files. That would have been better than all that. What y'all think? That's what I think. That would have been the best Trump card, pardon the pun, that they could have used against him, was show that he's in those files. That might have hurt his chances of winning the election over anything else they could have possibly did. But they didn't do it. Can anybody explain why they didn't do it? Can we get the likes up on TikTok? Let's get up to 50,000 likes. Why didn't they do it? I'm trying to figure this one out because the file's been around. So if Pam Bondi could look at the files, then who was the AG under Biden? That person, they could have looked at the files. So House Democrats are demanding files.
Daddy, what are you going to do with that other piece?
I don't know. What should I do with it?
You can make an apple like the same apple.
So you want two apples? You want two apples?
Yeah.
Okay. And while I'm doing this, can you tell people to get up to 50,000 likes?
50,000 what?
50,000 likes.
50,000 likes.
Yes, 50,000 likes. So right there, you see it says 44.
Mm-hmm.
We want it to be 50. 50,000 likes. All right, so my son, he's going to be 3 years old soon. He doesn't understand why they didn't release the files. None of you understand why they didn't release the files. Nobody understands why they didn't release the files. My theory, just based on that information alone. Oh, you dropped it. Can you go get it?
I'll get it.
My theory, based on that information alone, is that he's not in the files. That's just my working theory. Now, House Democrats.
I'll stay right here while you make that apple.
I did. It's right here. Okay, so Democrats are accusing the DOJ of withholding information that could possibly be damaging. This is politics as usual.
How will I get out of here?
Open the door. There you go. Good job. Make sure you close the door behind you. All right, see you later. this is politics as usual. So the Republicans are the ones in power, and it looks like a Republican might have did something wrong allegedly. So the Democrats are acting like, oh, y'all trying to hide. This is all theater. This is all done to rile up people like you and I to get us all excited that, oh, allegedly the Republican who's in power, who if you're a Democrat you don't like them, or if you're a Republican they want to undermine the trust. This is all just political theater, not even worth discussing. Now, again, the White House press secretary, Mrs. Leavitt, she said Bondi was talking about the broader case file, which is semantically could be true. And let me ask this question. Let's open this up for asking that question. Pam Bondi, when she said the files are on my desk, do you believe that she was just speaking semantically that the entire Epstein case was on her desk? Or do you believe that she was saying, I actually, have the files with the names in it, and then she just backtracked because she didn't want to put it out? So do you think she was telling the truth, or do you think she was lying? Just say truth or lying with Pam Bondi. When she initially said these files are on my desk, or the files on my desk, was she, as she claimed, just talking semantically, just all the documents are on my desk? Or was she really saying, I have actually looked through the file and there are actual files? And then she basically backtracked because somehow, some way, somebody said, don't put those out. What do y'all think? Was she telling the truth or was she lying? I'll tell you what I think. So some of you are saying lying and some saying they had the list. Some of you, okay, so about 80-20% say lying to the truth. I think Pam Bondi was, it's kind of hard. I don't know enough about Pam Bondi, but if I had to guess, I would say she was lying. I would say she might be lying. I would say she's lying. That there were documents in Epstein. I don't know enough about, I watched the Epstein documentary, but I don't think Jeff Epstein is that dumb. Well, he's passed away. I don't think he was that dumb of a guy. That I think he knows that what he was doing was not legal. Right? I think we all can agree to that. Do we all believe that he knew what he was doing, he probably shouldn't have been doing? All right. So if he knew he shouldn't have been doing it, why would you document every single thing? Now, mind you, Jeff Epstein is a finance guy. So when you're in finance, you're a money guy, investing guy, you got to document everything. I don't think that means that habit would just carry over to every single thing that he did in his life. I don't think he was documenting like how many steps he walked every day or how many push-ups he did in the gym. I think he would be smart enough, being that he's smart enough to have done what he did finance-wise to become wealthy, that he would also be smart enough to know that, okay, if I'm doing these things that are not legal, I probably shouldn't write it all down. So again, while there may be files that say this guy came to my island, this guy was at my house, this guy was on my plane, again, that's not a crime. Let's say I was on the list. Let's say you were on the list. That don't mean you did a crime. It just means I was there. Okay, I was there. That doesn't prove anything. Just because I was there, it don't prove anything. Just because I went to a Diddy party doesn't prove I did anything. I was just at the party. Again, I told y'all, I don't know Diddy. I was never invited to a Diddy party, but I would have went to the above board Diddy party. I would have went to that party. Because Diddy probably had a lot of pretty girls at the party. I would have went to that party. Now, I wouldn't have been at the after party. I told y'all this. I would have been watching Oprah. There's Oprah over there. I'm going to just watch Oprah. I didn't go there to meet Oprah. I'm going to just watch. When Oprah leaves, I'm leaving. I'm leaving the same time Oprah leaves. Not with Oprah, but I'm leaving the same time she leaves. So I can't, anything Oprah ain't doing, I ain't doing. All right, so anyway. Some Republicans and commentators say the initial memo was a political stunt that disappointed supporters. Well, that's true. I think we can all agree to that. That there are MAGA supporters who thought they were about to unleash everything and never unleashed everything. Even the JFK files. Didn't Donald Trump announce some time ago he's going to release the JFK files? And did we ever get... I mean, this is what politicians do. Donald Trump is not the typical politician, but he's still got to play political games when you're in D.C. It's pretty much what you got to do. So investigators emphasize this is the most transparent review to date with no evidence found to warrant further release. So this term is starting to get to me. No evidence. This is the whole thing. Without evidence, no evidence. This is the new go-to shield anybody uses when they hear an accusation that they don't like. And everybody's doing it. They're doing it on the political left. They're doing it on the right. They're doing it on every side, even if it's not a political thing. Anytime someone is accused of or it is alluded to that they might have been doing something wrong, people come out with this no evidence thing. Oh, so you have no evidence. You're accusing me with no evidence. Everybody's using this whole no evidence thing. And does evidence matter? Yes, evidence does matter. At the same time, it's also a get out of jail free card to push back against anything that you don't want to address. You can just say, well, there's no evidence. Hey, there's no evidence. No evidence. And again, what constitutes evidence? I just told you. Just because someone got on Jeff Epstein's plane does not mean they did anything wrong. Just because you went to his island doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Just because you shook his hand and did they took a picture with him does not mean you did anything wrong. Even if Maxwell was there too, even if there was a girl in the picture, doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Whose video was it I was looking at? I think it was Candace Owens. She was showing a picture of Andrew Prince Andrew, and he was in a photo. It was him. I think he was hugging some random girl. It was a girl who ended up being in the case, the Epstein case. And then Epstein was, I think, taking the picture, and Maxwell was standing behind them. And Candace Owens was kind of saying, and again, I'll give her a little bit of credit semantically, but Candace Owens is pretty sharp with her verbiage. She was saying this is proof that he was involved in something. I say, not so much. Now, you add that in with the fact Andrew kind of disappeared and then came back out. That when you start to put the clusters together, then you can maybe start to paint a picture. The same thing with body language. If somebody says something, some people in body language say, well, if somebody says something, then they touch their face, that means they're lying. Not necessarily. Maybe their face is actually itching. Maybe it's just a natural thing they touch their face. But you have to read body language in clusters. So you can't just go off of one gesture. If somebody folds their arms, that means that they're not happy. No, maybe they're just cold. Maybe they got a stain on their shirt and they don't want to show. You have to read the cluster, not just that piece, but you got to go along with other pieces. And when you can put it all together, now you can start to reason and say, okay, this is why I'm thinking what I'm thinking. But you can't just go off one piece of information. So when it came to what Candace said, I understand where she's coming from. When it comes to just the raw evidence of you're in a file, it doesn't prove anything. Again, unless Jeff Epstein is one of the dumbest criminals in history, and he was literally writing down the crimes that people were committing and documenting it, I don't think he's that dumb. I don't think he could possibly have been that dumb, while at the same time being smart enough to be, I don't know, what was it? Was Jeff Epstein a billionaire? I don't know what he was. Let's see if we can find out. What was Jeff Epstein's financial status, and how did he make his money before he passed away? Because I don't think a guy could be smart enough to be, I'm assuming he was one of these people that we all have now called billionaires. And he said his financial status was secretive and controversial. So estimates at the time of his death said he ranged anywhere from hundreds of millions to over $1 billion, but the exact figure remains unclear. So nobody knows exactly how much money he had. He was in Wall Street in 1970s in Bear Stearns. He became a limited partner, left in 1981. He started a consulting money management company, Epstein and Company, and he would only manage the assets of clients with a minimum net worth of $1 billion. That's a good way to get started. So he would only mess with people if you had $1 billion. Only confirmed client was a man named Wesley Wexner, founder of L Brands, which owns Victoria's Secret. Then he had a whole bunch of real estate. He had a townhouse in Manhattan. He had a private islands in the Virgin Islands called Little St. James. So what we all call Epstein Islands called Little St. James. He had a ranch, and then he had houses in like Palm Beach and Paris through shell companies. And some say his financial activity was suspicious, but there's no proof of his investment genius. Little to no evidence. Here it is again. Little to no evidence. He actually invested in the markets or managed diversified portfolios. At the time of his passing, his estate listed $577 million. So hedge fund, $56 million in cash, $100 million in equities, $18 million in automobiles, $180 million in real estate. And these are disputed facts. So this guy was pretty quiet about what he did. All right, so all these things that I just listed about Jeff Epstein are, again, things that people say, but they are not none of them is 100% confirmed because the guy didn't put his business in the street. So all of that said, if the guy isn't putting his business in the street, how the hell do you think he would document himself doing something that he knows he shouldn't be doing? He didn't even document the stuff that he was doing that was good. Why would he document the bad stuff? Somebody explain that. Give me a comment and explain to me why he would be documenting crime. This dude didn't even document. They couldn't even find exactly what he had financially. And this guy was pretty well known for, well, not well known. He became well known, but he had money. Obviously, the guy had money. I think we all can agree to that. He didn't even document that. Look how many people out there who have money, make sure you know they got money. Just so they can use it, they can leverage it for their own fame and attention and magazine covers, et cetera, et cetera. Look how many people do it. He didn't even do that. And he was allegedly working with people who had at least $1 billion. But now people are saying, well, he has documents of showing people committing crimes. It just doesn't add up, folks. It doesn't pass the smell test. And the fact of the matter is, if you have a conspiracy or a theory, let's just call it a theory. These days, people call it conspiracy theories. If you have a theory that has not been yet proven, let's remember where we are. We're in the United States of America. At least that's where I'm recording from. In the United States of America, the burden of proof is on the accuser. And you are innocent until proven guilty. So until someone can prove that ABC person, whether it is Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, who else? P. Diddy, Donald Trump, anybody else until you can prove that that person actually did something illegal with or with the assistance of Mr. Epstein and Mrs. Maxwell. They are innocent until you prove it. You got to prove it. All right, so we got to hold the same standard with Donald Trump as we hold with Diddy, as we hold with anyone else who's accused of anything. You, accuser, must prove it. If you don't prove it, then that's that. That's how it works. There's no two ways about this. This is not a civil case. We're talking a criminal activity. And criminal activity, the burden of proof is you must prove it beyond a reasonable doubt that this happened. And there is plenty of reasonable doubt. I just gave you all the reasonable doubt right there. And there's a bunch more. And until you can supersede my reasonable doubt, it didn't happen. That's the way it works here. Innocent until proven guilty. It is not a 50-50 deal. We're not equal partners in this. You got to prove anything that you claim. And if you don't prove it, it didn't happen. So any of you got proof, let's see it. So over in the comments, Brandon says, I can't deal with myself right now. A woman told me she wants a guy that would rob her. Have you ever heard something like that before? No, I don't think so. I don't think I have. You should join the circle. We can talk about that. Or whatever it is you're dealing with in your personal life right now. Well, we do help people with that. Let's see what we got over in the comments on TikTok. Over to TikTok. By the way, if you are watching on TikTok and you are commenting on TikTok, I can only respond to the comments that I can see, and I'm scrolling up as far as I can. And there are more comments than I can see, all of them, and I can't respond to every comment because we ain't got enough time. So I'm scrolling through and just picking the ones that I see and I want to reply to. So nothing personal if I don't respond to your comment. Please do not spam my comments by posting the same thing 10 times. If you post it like twice, I'll see it. You don't have to post any comment more than 2 times. Moderators who are in here watching, feel free to pin a comment if you see something interesting that I absolutely should respond to, and I will respond to it. Moderators, you see a good comment, just pin the comment, leave it up there for 60 seconds. I'll respond to it. Other than that, I'm just scrolling. Aaron said Biden was in on it too. Yeah, well, some say. And not necessarily Biden, but it could be people on the political left. What I think, I didn't say that, but I should say this here, is that I think if there is a file, we don't know if there even is a file, folks. If there's a file from Epstein, I believe that it will probably implicate people on both sides of the political aisle and in all areas of, let's just call it power and status in the United States of America. And because of that, nobody wants the files released, because if you put out one person, then you got to put out everybody else. And somebody mentioned mutual destruction. I saw that comment somewhere in here. I don't think any of them want this list to come out. I think a bunch of people just want this to go away. And then a bunch of people are making a show of, oh, you should put it out. But they don't really, nobody wants it to come out. Mac Pro Diva says, because the list is not limited to Trump, powerful people on the list. Yes, exactly. So what I just said, this Mac Pro Diva said the same thing. Be Free said they're grasping for straws, nothing sticks. Yes. Janelle said that AG didn't do anything in the Biden administration. Well, what would you want him to do? Sometimes the AG not doing anything might be a good thing. It depends. Cheyenne says more people, they had to protect everyone else. Yeah, so all of you are on the same page. Yeah, nobody wants that file to come out. Karen said, I missed that comment. I missed it. Justin Bose said, this better never go away. Somebody needs to leak the whole thing. I don't think that's going to happen, Justino. I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't think that's going to happen. Who's going to leak it? Because, again, whoever leaks it, you got to leak. You're going to be exposing everybody. So who you willing to expose? Jeff Epstein was a money guy. Remember, Jeff Epstein was not a Democrat or Republican. He was a money guy. And a money guy deals with everybody who is interested in money. And guess who's interested in money? Politicians. All right, they're interested in money. Jeff Epstein was a money guy. So I'm pretty sure Jeff Epstein, if he was getting all these other people in his web, I doubt he was saying, let me just go after Democrats or let me just go after Republicans. What the hell does he care? And he was active for a long time, way before any of this political division. There's always been political division, but it's gotten crazy since 2015. But Epstein passed away in 2019. He was active for years. So I don't think either side is going to be implicated strongly enough that it makes sense. Lindsay said, because now they say he didn't. She had it all, the files. So some say she did have it. Yeah, it could be either. Lindsay said they say he didn't blackmail anyone either. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he did. Again, we'll never know. He's passed away now. He can't speak for himself. And he already had a trial. So, again, this is just something to keep the everyday people excited, I think, for now. But overall, I see this pretty much going away. Every few years, somebody will revive the conversation, but this is going nowhere. Donald Trump just basically said it's over. What he said last week is over. So are we ever going to see this list? I highly doubt it. So any of you holding your breath, you're going to pass away. that this list ain't coming up. So many of you said she was lying. Some of you said it was the truth. Indiana said, I heard the entire interview while she was referring to the files. Yeah, recently. That was the one she did last week. But when she first came into the office, she was saying it's on my desk. And the way she was saying it, it seemed that she was referring to the specific names and specific people. So when we say files, that term can be interpreted in multiple ways. So what do you mean when you say files? What are you talking about? Repent says she had half the files. FBI in New Jersey and New York had the other half. Yes. So Repent, I'm glad you brought that up. I believe it was Mark Halperin. Mark Halperin was on Megyn Kelly last week, and this is what he was saying, was that what Repent just said right here, was that some of the files the government has, that's Pam Bondi, but then the rest of the files, the state of New York has those files. And the state of New York does not necessarily have to give their files to the government because every state has some autonomy and some sovereignty from the government. The government can't just tell them what to do, which is why I said with Biden, he could have called any one of those people who went after Trump and said, don't do that. Not because he can make them not do it, but they would have listened because of the political alignment, but because he let it happen, or maybe, who knows, tell them to do it. Just my possible throwing it out there. They went and did it. So it's the state of New York who has some of the files too that haven't come out. Now, question becomes, why does the state of New York not to put the files out? Same reason, because it would implicate a whole bunch of people. Who lives in New York? There's Democrats in New York. There's Republicans in New York. I don't think Jeff Epstein was only targeting one political party. And what the hell does he care? He was a money guy. He cares about who has money. Last I heard, both Democrats and Republicans got money. So Pammy said they'll cover up forever. Too many guilty parties are high up. Possibly guilty parties. We'll say that. And Butterfly Howard, good morning. Ruthie said he would document for briberies, etc. But again, why would Jeff Epstein, just think about this, Ruthie, why would he need to bribe anybody? Why would Jeff Epstein need to bribe anybody? He already had money. I mean, I could see maybe why, maybe he was just sadistic maybe in some way, but why would he need to do that? And why would he write it down? If you bribe somebody, you don't have to write it down. If I know that you owe me something because of something I did for you 3 weeks ago, I don't have to write it down to remember that you owe me something. You know that you owe me and I know that you owe me. Why would I write it down? What do I get out of writing it down? Tiger said her reply is it's sitting on my desk. Yes. So what's it? What is she referring to? So the file. What file? Which file are we talking? Are we talking the entire caseload file, or are you talking a specific list of people? So again, the term can be interpreted in so many different ways. There will always be this ambiguity. We'll never really know. And I think it's pretty clear this is not going to get talked about anymore by the Trump administration. So this is always going to be an open question that will never actually be answered. Noah said, "Are you a lawyer?" No, I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TikTok. What I actually am is a business coach and consultant. I own a company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here is we take discipline and structure to help people reach the top 2% at what they do, and we turn that into a process and a system that produces measurable and consistent results. You want to learn more about that? Just click the link in my profile, and we will show you what we can do at all levels: entrepreneurs, business professionals, teams as well. Life Well Lived said JFK files were released to the National Archive, but it wasn't the blockbuster AHA CEI. Yeah, I remember Trump saying he was going to release the file. So what you're saying is that they did release it, but it wasn't really anything super interesting in it. Is that what you're saying, Life Well Lived? If that's the case, then okay, that makes sense. Traditional said they flipped the script too quick. Yeah, well, it ain't getting flipped back. Hart said, notice the feds didn't bring up the tapes found in his houses. Yeah, they ain't bringing them up, and they're not going to. That's the whole point. Nancy says, still, Mama always said guilty by association. Yeah, in the public eye, people who already don't like Donald Trump will use this as more evidence against Trump. I mean, there's already like a list of 80 things people who don't like Trump can list as reasons why they don't like him. They'll just add this to the list. But we already knew they didn't like him, so this doesn't really change the conversation. That's the thing. Doesn't change anything. We haven't learned anything new. I'm okay said Trump was hired by people and for the people, basically as a businessman on a global scale. All right, fair enough. Eli said, we did get Kennedy files. Democrats had him taken out. Why lie? Right, you are a radical Democrat. Me? I'm a radical Democrat. Say I won't say it's called blackmail. But again, why you got to write it down? If I'm blackmailing you, why do I have to write it down? Because I know and you know what happened. So writing it down, what does that do for me or you? What, I got to send you an invoice? Seagrove said, wealth is not proof proof of intelligence. It is not proof of intelligence. Fair enough, but it is an indicator that a person probably has some intellectual capability. Would you agree? And depending on how they made their money. Also, it's not just having money, it's how you made it. So I would say if a person made a whole bunch of money by being a money manager or an investor, that is a stronger sign of some level of intelligence, than if you made your money being a rapper or let's say a rapper or a basketball player. You don't have to be intelligent to rap or play basketball. You have to do some thinking. You have to have some intellectual property up here in order to money manage your way into making money. Again, you don't have to be amazing. You don't have to be super smart. Maybe your parents have money, but you got to have something up there. Pammy said he wanted receipts. I don't know about that. D said, wasn't he a teacher without a degree? I don't know. Was he? I don't know about that. You tell me. Traditional said, don't think he passed away. So Jeff Epstein is Tupac? Is that what you're saying? He's Tupac? He's still alive? We're just waiting for him to come back? Traditional said, how many billionaires are there? There's a lot of billionaires. They just don't make themselves known. The Forbes 400 list, I remember I read the magazine. This is years ago. This is probably 10 years ago. There's a Forbes 400 list. And in that issue of the Forbes 400, they said this is the first issue of our Forbes 400 where the minimum to get on the list was $1 billion. And the list is 400 people. So it's the 400 richest people in America. And the lowest level person on the list had to have at least $1 billion. Now, here's the thing y'all got to understand about the Forbes 400. And I've read about this, is that a lot of people who qualify to be on the Forbes 400 are not on it because they don't want anybody knowing that they have money. They don't want their name in the magazine. So Jeff Epstein was not that much of an anomaly when it came to if he had billions or let's say hundreds of millions. There's a lot of people at that level are not Elon Musk. They're not Jeff Bezos. They're not LeBron James. They're not Oprah. They're not out there wanting you to know that they have it. They're not Jay-Z telling you in every song that they got it. They don't want anyone to know that they have it because they prefer the privacy rather than the spectacle of it. So when you hear about people saying that they're a billionaire and announcing it to you all the time, they are the exceptions. They're not the rule. Haunt said, at our jobs, we document everything, especially in finance. Yeah, that's what I said. In finance, at his job, he documented everything. But what he got arrested for was not part of his job. Why would he document that? Now, he recorded it on video, which tells me that probably has something to do with he just has something sick inside of him that he liked to watch that stuff. And Pam Bondi said this. He said he had a whole bunch of files on his hard drives that are illegal just to even have those files. He had those. But would he write down, hey, I did this for this guy, and this Donald Trump did this, and Bill Clinton did that, and P. Diddy did that? I don't know if he'll write those down. We will never know because he passed away. He can't speak for himself, and we'll probably never see the files. So all there's ever going to be is just a conversation. Thank you for sharing the live over there, Glenn. Please get the likes up, folks. Get the 100K. Who is paying who? Traditional all day. Who are you asking about? Paying who? Haunt said, I think Trump supporters just want a narrative to defend the fake king. Well, you could flip that around and say that Trump detractors want a narrative to attack the fake king, as you call him. So both sides are using this. Barbara said to blackmail. So a bunch of you are saying that he did it to blackmail people. Well, why would he need to write it down, though? That's what I'm asking. Why would he write it down? So Comrade said he recorded on DVD and VHS. Yes, that we know. He had a whole bunch of videos. We don't know what's on those videos. We'll never see them probably. I think the videos are all he needed, not the documentation. Because if I write down that I gave you something that you owe it to me, is that really proof? You could just say, well, that's not true. But if I got it on video, it's harder for you to lie about a video. Again, see the Diddy case. Now, Diddy couldn't lie about that video. Well, he tried to lie. When Cassie came out with the lawsuit and said Diddy used to beat my ass, he came out the next day and said, his lawyers put out a statement through him and said, I'm going to clear my name and this is someone just trying to get money out of me. Y'all remember that? The very next day after that lawsuit, he said somebody's trying to get money out of me. Then the next day after that, the video came out and he came out after that with an apology like, oh, that was wrong what I did. All right, now you just hurt your credibility, Diddy. Because you tried to say she was just trying to get money out of you. Then the next day the video came out and now here you are apologizing. So just because somebody says something, again, the lawsuit was written down, all the things Diddy did. Then he said, oh, that's just a money grab. Then the video came out. Then he went to trial. And guess what? Everything in the lawsuit was true. So sometimes writing it down ain't enough. You got to prove it. And again, Epstein is not alive anymore. So what are they going to prove? Say I won't said BS. That's not the way the legal system works. It's called money buys freedom. So a lot of people say that money buys freedom. That when you have money, that you can buy your freedom. Well, the way that justice system in America works is, I will partially agree with you that if you end up in the legal system in the United States of America, it helps to have money, because the legal system in America is much more based on if you can afford to defend yourself or afford to prove your point more than it is if you're innocent or guilty. Is that true? 100% that's true. I did a whole episode on my podcast. Let me see if I can find it. I got a podcast that's called Work on Your Game. It comes out every day. And I did a 2-part series that is literally titled Stay Out of Court, Part 1 and Stay Out of Court, Part 2. You can see it right here, episode 3305. Stay Out of Court, Part 1. You see it says Part 1 of 2. And then I got Stay Out of Court, Part 2. Right after that, Stay Out of Court, Part 2. You want to stay out of court in the United States of America. Why? Because number one, if you don't have money, you may end up getting screwed by the system because you don't have money. You can't afford good representation. And number two reason why you want to stay out of court, even if you do have money, why would you want to give your money to the court or give your money to a lawyer? Instead, you could put that money into your kids' college fund or into your retirement or into going on vacation or going to Whole Foods. Why would you put that money into a lawyer? So you want to stay out of court in the United States of America because it does come down to money. If you don't have money, you're going to jail. So Dee Dee Hansen said, why is Ghislaine in prison for her crimes? Let's find out what exactly she was convicted of. What exactly was Ghislaine Maxwell convicted of, and how much time did she get? So Ghislaine Maxwell in December 2021, federal jury trial in New York. So this is a New York trial, it was a federal trial, but it happened in New York. Okay. She was found guilty on 5 of 6 charges. Trafficking of a minor, recruiting, grooming, facilitating encounters with underage girls. So she got convicted of that. Transportation across state lines. That's what made it a federal case. And conspiracy charges. Trafficking, transporting minors for illicit purposes. This stemmed from a decade-long scheme. So the scheme that she was charged with, let's be clear about this, happened between 1994 and 2004. That's what she was charged with. Between 94 and 04. So this was way before Donald Trump was involved in politics and way before this huge divide we got politically in the United States. And she was helping Epstein identify and groom young women, some as young as age 14, and facilitated their abuse. This is according to documents. In 2022, almost exactly 3 years ago to the date, June 28th, Maxwell got 240 months in prison, fed time, that's 20 years, 5 years of release after the 20, and a fine of $750,000. Prosecutors wanted her to get 30 to 55 years. The guidelines recommended 20, and she got 20. So they were actually trying to get her 30 to 55 years. She only got 20. So then she appealed, and last September, they upheld the Second Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the conviction. So she still has 20. She's currently serving her sentence at a low-security prison in Tallahassee, Florida. Her earliest release date is July of 2037. July 17th was actually, 12 years almost to the day is the earliest she can get out of jail. She has filed a petition arguing that the non-prosecution agreement should have shielded her, but as of now, no decision has been made. So that's the situation with Miss Maxwell. That's what she was convicted of. Venom says, isn't about what you know, it's about what you can prove in court. Yes, it is. And about what your lawyer can prove in court. Let's see. I'm looking through comments here on TikTok. Thank you for getting me to 100K, everybody on TikTok. Annabella said the files are true. What files? Barbara said maybe he just shook hands with possible leverage. Funds didn't come from out of the air. Well, according to what the story about him was, he's a money manager, but the guy was pretty secretive about his money. And again, as I said a few minutes ago, most people who have that level of money are not telling you that they got money. The people you see on TV or on the internet telling you how much money they have are exceptions. And moderators, again, you see a good comment, go ahead and pin something. REB said those involved need to go away. But we don't know who's involved or if anyone is involved that isn't away already. Barbo says someone's on that list that Trump needs. What about Biden and Harris? They had the files. Why didn't they do it? Tanya said, if this list goes away, let Diddy go, period. What is the connection between the two of them? Mr. Ohio said, what if the island was some Squid Games type stuff, all the missing and homeless people? Yeah, I don't know. White said follow the money. Well, yeah, you follow it until the money doesn't want to be followed anymore. And then the money stops getting followed. That's the whole thing. Annabelle said, we exposed anyone. What do you mean? Joanne said, who knows what's true on that file? Democrats had it for a long time. Exactly. So the Democrats had the file, the Republicans had the file, nobody put it out, which tells me if there is incriminating information in those files that they looked at it and said, damn, there's mutual destruction here, so you might as well put out nothing. This doesn't even mean that there is a file. Maybe there's no file. And we do know there's footage. What's on that video? We will probably never see it. I would guess most American citizens, if you don't work in the government, you'll probably never see those files. Stephanie said, what's going to happen to G. Maxwell? Well, from what I just read, she's probably going to sit in jail till at least 2037. Tanya said, Hugh Hefner, same actions. I don't know about that one. Hugh Hefner was selling sex and didn't look like Hugh Hefner was into girls who were underage, at least not from what we've heard. And he had a lot of enemies. So if he was doing it, then someone should probably come forward. Maybe they have, about it. I saw the documentary on Hugh Hefner. It was like a movie. It's like a docu-series. I don't know, what do you call it when it's acting? I think it was on Amazon. It was pretty well done. Gina said, do you think he's actually passed away? Well, that's what I was told. I mean, a couple of you have made this comment. So y'all think he might still be alive? Like Tupac? Hey, maybe he is. Murphy the Mutt said, Megyn Kelly said, we have not heard the last from Epstein. So a few of you are throwing this out there that maybe he's not passed away. Okay, interesting. Zeus said, Epstein lives in Jamaica. Yeah, his white ass is walking around Jamaica and nobody noticed. We'll see. JC said, Donald Trump said, is over. Pretty much. It's over until the next president comes in, and it better be a Democrat if y'all want this to come back up. Tigger said, back in February, says she had it on her desk. Yeah, what's it? TT said, Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew in photos with the victim. Yeah, just because they took a photo with the girl doesn't mean they did anything. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, Tiger, I get it. That she did say is on her desk, but what's it? She's changed the definition of what she meant by it. Joe Suba said, this guy loves Trump. Don't be fooled. All right, so Joe, you get the straw man of the day. Congratulations to Joe Suba for the straw man of the day award. For those of you not familiar, the straw man of the day is an award that we give out to a commentator. The first commentator who I noticed, and we got about 15 minutes left here, folks. The first commentator of the day who I noticed with a straw man argument, for those of you who don't know what the straw man is a common logical fallacy, one of the most common of all. Logical fallacy is when someone takes something, they rephrase it into something that was not said or was not done or is not true. And then they throw that rephrased frame out there as a way of basically steering the conversation in the direction they want it to go. So this guy is saying, I'm a Trump supporter. This guy loves Trump. Don't be fooled. What did I say that says I love Trump? I love objectivity. I have no political affiliation. I've never received $1 from any political party. If I have, please tell me where they sent the money because I didn't get it. All right, if they sent me a check, where's the check? I didn't get it. They can confirm this by checking their bank account because I didn't cash it. So this guy saying this guy loves Trump as a way of discrediting me, I guess, because maybe I'm saying things that I'm not going hard enough against Trump. So the frame must be, oh, he loves Trump. That's why he's not going hard enough at Trump because maybe it's not to your liking. Straw man. Nice try, though. JC said, out of all the men who did this, is a woman who got locked up. That's an interesting point. And I understand it. Myron Wilson said, private island. Yes. Barble said, obviously he was sadistic. Yes, that I agree with. Tiger said, why the cover up? Do the crime, do the time. Well, who did the crime? Who's being covered up for? XTR said the files exist. They're valuable as leverage to blackmail in the future. Okay, so this is what most of you are probably referring to, that they would just hold on to the files and not put them out there because if you hold on to them now, they can control people not only today, but tomorrow and into the future. That makes sense if it's a thing. Now, who is doing it, though? Because you got to remember, the Democrats had the files and they moved how they moved. Then the Republicans got the files. They're moving how they're moving. So who's doing the blackmailing? It can't be the Democrats or Republicans. So does this become the deep state? Is that what it is? We back to the deep state. Who's doing the blackmailing? It can't be one side or the other because, again, why? How can they both do it? So the fight laws and massage list you're saying is on somebody's page. All right, is it verified? Because if so, that should be on the national news. Lil Oprah said bribery isn't always monetary. Yes, of course. Of course. Say I won't say Trump doesn't have to talk about it. We will. Yeah, it's fine you talking about it, but what people are eventually going to ask for is, can you prove it? So we can talk about anything, but can you prove it? Jay Woody said it's not ambiguity, it's plausible deniability. Well, they can be the same thing. Being ambiguous can support your plausible deniability. That's why she said it's on my desk, the file. Okay, the plausible deniability is she meant the whole of the case file, or did she mean in detail the actual files and names of people? So the ambiguity supports her plausible deniability, which she just used last week. William Ruse said, super intelligent guy, you gained a follower. Thank you, William. Say I won't said, this guy's just making money off TikTok. Who, me? I'm just making money off TikTok. So here's another straw man argument that people try to use. They say this guy's just making money off TikTok. So this is being said as so say I won't, you get the straw man of the day, number 2. People will use some frame like this as a way of discrediting whatever I'm saying because they disagree with it by saying, oh, well, you're only saying what you're saying for some reason that has nothing to do with the actual topic, which is I'm just saying these things so I can make money off TikTok. First of all, if what I was doing was just to make money off TikTok, then I would just stream all day and just make money off TikTok. There's a reason why this live stream is going to end in 12 minutes. Because I got other things that I do that produce a lot more money than TikTok does that I will be doing. Now, have I ever made money off TikTok? Yes. But am I doing this just to make money off TikTok? No. Because again, if that was the case, then why not just do this all day? Why do anything else? Tiger says she was specifically asked about whether the Epstein list would get released. Nothing about files. Again, list, files, what are we talking about? Again, the language itself. We all are not even talking about the same thing. We even use these words. So what are we talking about? Life Well Lived said, yes, the National Archive was the public view. Okay, got it. Lauren said, maybe the victims don't want to be outed. Well, Pam Bondi was clear about that, to out the victims. But can't there be a way to just put out a redacted file that shows certain things? The thing is very hard to do depending on the way the information is parsed. And we don't know because we can't see the information. Red said, Epstein is kind of a scary guy. Well, he's passed away now, so I don't know if you're still scared of him. Heather Gale said, a failed businessman. Who are you talking about? Pammy said, yes, receipts. Yeah, we need receipts. Dee said, you can blackmail without writing something down. Yes, exactly. So we don't need files then. So if you blackmail somebody and didn't write anything down, then why do we need to see the files? Scrap said, Epstein is on an island laughing at all of this. Maybe he's watching us right now. Maybe you're Epstein leaving this comment. Scrap, are you Jeff Epstein? Hiding behind that screen name? Dee said, wasn't he a teacher without a degree? A couple people left that comment. I don't know. Was he? Me now said he was a math teacher. Well, anybody can teach math. All you got to do is get the textbook and read a couple chapters ahead of the class. Any of you can teach math. Everybody who's listening to this right now. Ty Hall said, I disagree. You have to be smart to play ball. No, you don't. Ty Hall, I played basketball at every level. You don't have to be smart to play ball. Doesn't mean that everybody who plays ball is dumb, but you don't have to be smart just because you play basketball. You got to be good at basketball to play basketball. Red says the elites are billionaires. Okay. Well, a lot of them are unknown. Red said elites don't leave traces. No, I'm not sure that's true. Epstein was filming stuff. EKC said difference of old money versus new money. Generally true. Life Well Lived said people are looking for the files because through his lawyer claimed he had evidence. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Ma said, I keep saying just lie about everything because no one can prove it. Well, how do you know they're lying? Again, this is where we go. So how you know they're lying if you can't prove they're lying, then you can't say that they're lying. Maybe they're just saying what they're saying. Jay Rocket said, president doesn't release files to DOJ, and the DOJ doesn't work directly for the president. The president has influence over the DOJ, though. I think we all can agree to that. Again, if Joe Biden had made some calls to the DOJ and said, don't do any of this stuff that's about to happen to Trump, none of that stuff would have happened. Full stop. Tiger said, I believe that you're looking at this objectively. Well, yes, I am. At least as best I can. YIG said, we won't see the files until the next administration. This is big in MAGA because he's the J group. I'm not going to say that word, at least not today. So we'll see. The next administration might be J.D. Vance. Right now, who y'all think is running for the Democrats in 2028? If it's Kamala Harris, it's going to be J.D. Vance is going to be the next administration. So maybe you're talking about the one after that. So Democrats better come up with a candidate first. Andrea Freeman Hiles said, very smart man. I love the honesty. Thank you. Pammy said, I helped my son with his math using YouTube videos. Yeah, exactly. And you could use Grok or the Chat GPT or Claude or something to help your kids with math. So, I mean, you don't need a degree to teach math. All you need is to read ahead in the textbook. Ronald Christ said, love that slogan, the great Bill Walton. What slogan are you talking about? Sonia's bug spray, good morning. Cindy said, Joe couldn't stay awake to do anything. Maybe. Barbara said, why do you need files? Break down some of the language he uses. What do you mean? If the government is coming out and saying that they have proof of something, you got to have it documented. Proof must be documented, ladies and gentlemen. That's the reason why a lot of times when people are doing criminal activity, they don't write it down, because if it's not written down, it's much harder to prove. Now, if you write down all the crime you did, then you leave in what they call a paper trail, and that paper trail makes you easy to track. The thing is today is much harder to do. It's much harder to get away with doing crime in the world that we live in today, because everything is documented, because everybody has a damn camera on their phones. Everybody can film anything at any time. There are cameras outside every place you go. Anywhere you go indoors, there are cameras. And people tend to write down everything they do because we got it on our phones. We're sending text messages, emails, etc. So many more things are documented these days. It's harder to do crime and get away with it. So if you're thinking about doing crime, I would suggest you don't, because it's much harder to get away with crime these days simply because of the constant documentation that everyone has access to. Back then, 1994, you could be doing stuff and nobody would know about it because there was no cameras. You weren't writing it down. It's just his word against somebody else's word. And it's hard to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt when all you got is words. You need proof. So Jeff Epstein filming himself doing what he did is one of the main reasons why he went to jail. Same thing with Ghislaine Maxwell. The filming is what got them caught. Also, the fact they had to fly people into this island. They were doing this in Nashville, Tennessee. They probably could have got away with more of it, because they could have just drove people in, put them on a Greyhound bus, much less documentation. Same thing with Diddy. The reason that Diddy case happened is because that video came out of him beating his girlfriend in front of the elevator. That video did not come out, they would not have had a case. Even though he wasn't even charged with what happened in that video. Without that video, they wouldn't have had the momentum to charge him with a crime. That's exactly where it came from. So XTR said Democrats are going to put out Newsom. Yeah, I don't know about that. I think you're right, but I don't know if he's going to win. I don't think he'd win. Texas Blue Bonnet said Ivanka Trump was going to run for president. I don't think so. J.D. Vance is next in line. So Ronald Christ said, work on your game slogan. That's Bill Walton. Bill Walton said that? I didn't know that. But okay, fair enough. Maggie said Trump probably on those films. All right, well, we'll see who puts them out. They got to prove it. You got to prove it. And the longer they take to put that out, the harder it's going to be, because the world that we're in today, folks, you can make fake AI video of anything. So now Trump can just say that's AI. How are you going to prove the video is real? So that's why it's getting crazier these days, because number one, it's easier to get caught because everything's documented. Number two, it's easier to deny stuff because you could just say it's fake. And the better AI gets at making photos and videos, the easier it will be for somebody who is shown on a photo or a video to say, that's not me, that's fake. How are you going to prove it? How are you going to prove that something's not AI video? 10 years from now, when somebody puts out a video of you doing something wrong, and they're like, oh, here you are on video, and I say, that's not real. It's AI. How are you going to prove it? So it's actually getting crazier and crazier to know what to believe. That's the reason why facts don't matter anymore, folks. I've told y'all this over and over again. Those of you who are new around here, I say this damn near every day. Facts don't matter, because you can easily deny a fact these days. You can go create your own facts, and you can just say that fact is fake. You got that fact from AI. You made an AI video. That's an AI photo. That's not me. How are you going to prove that they're lying? You can't. So this is why facts don't matter anymore. So the world is getting crazier. Cass said, this so-called list is so much deeper than any politician or celebrity. If there is a list, then I think you're right. If there's a list, Kathleen, but we don't know yet. YIG said, according to your theory, the D's are putting out a good-looking man for president, so he has a chance. What theory am I? What theory? When did I put out that theory? What are you talking about? I said, I think right now, if the election was tomorrow, they would have to put Newsom. He's the front runner right now. And most people say that he's a good-looking man. Okay, fine. I never called him a good-looking man, but if that's what you're calling him, fine. Does he have a chance? Yes. If you get down to the final two, Democrat versus Republican, you got a chance. If I was a Democrat candidate, I have a chance because I'm a Democrat. And there's a bunch of people in America. The reason why you have a chance if you make it to the final two, same reason Kamala had a chance. There's a bunch of people in America who are going to vote Democrat no matter who the candidate is. You put a ham sandwich up as the candidate, the ham sandwich is going to get a couple million votes. Why? Tens of millions of votes. Why? Because a bunch of people vote Democrat no matter what. So if you make it to the final two, you have a chance, regardless of who you are. Again, it's the reason why Kamala had a chance. YG said they can prove it at the top level, and you're right. Well, thank you. Evan said because all those photos and videos have been around for years. Yes, true, but how can somebody not say that they're doctored? You doctored the photo. You doctored the video. That's very easy to do. You took an old video and then you changed it up to make it look like I was doing something. I wasn't even in that video. That's not me. You put my head on somebody else's body. How do you prove it? These things it's getting harder and harder to prove it. So YIG says facts don't matter. Then right after that, Evan says facts does matter. Facts do not matter. The reason why facts don't matter is because it's very easy to refute any fact that you want to refute these days. And it's getting easier and easier to refute facts. So the further along we go, the easier it will be to refute any fact that you want. Not that the fact is not a fact, but you could come up with your own counter fact, and it could just be back and forth. Spy versus spy. We just keep coming up with facts going back and forth to the point that everybody's confused and nobody knows who to trust. That's where we're ultimately going, everybody. And AI is only going to make this worse because it's going to be easier and easier to create your own facts out of pretty much thin air anytime that you want to. So you don't have to believe anything that you don't want to believe. Even if you, in your heart of hearts, know that it's true, you can act like you don't believe it and come up with your own counterfacts to refute that fact. You don't have to believe anything. And today, that already exists, but 10 years from now, it's going to be so crazy, you're not going to believe it. So facts will not matter at all. Tiger said, Trump is already saying what's in the file is probably fake anyway, which is his right to say that. And these days, very easy to claim that on anything. Pammy said, you can't prove a video is AI generated. Well, can you? You tell me, Pammy. And as AI video gets better, right now, AI video is not that good. It's not that good right now, but it's only 2025. By 2030, AI video is going to be so good that it'll be something like this live that you're watching right now. I talked about this like a month ago. By 2030, maybe by 2030, but definitely by 2035, guaranteed. A live stream like this, it will be just like this, but it won't be me. I'll be sitting over there eating breakfast. I don't even eat breakfast. I'll be sitting over there actually doing some work. And I'm going to have the AI version of me doing a live stream, talking just like this, moving just like this, using the same mannerisms, the same language, same everything. And you will not be able to tell that it's AI. You won't even know that it's not an actual human being. That's how good it's going to get. It's not there yet. It's far from that right now. But computing power gets so quick. Computing power doubles every 18 months? Isn't that Moore's law? It's going to get so good, so quick, you're not going to believe it. And that video is going to be so good that you can't tell that it's AI. So then somebody comes out with a video that has you doing something bad, you can just say it's fake. I didn't do it. That's fake video. Again, how are you going to prove that it's not fake? Or how are you going to prove that it is fake? Now, you can't. That's the whole thing. That's the reason why facts don't matter. Y'all understand this? This is where it's going, everybody. So you know what's going to become most valuable? We got 30 seconds left before I wrap this up. What's going to become most valuable is your ability to think for yourself. Your ability to parse information, think for yourself, and come up with your own theories and your own understandings based on all the information you can gather. And you're going to have to figure out what makes sense based on what's been sent to you. But you can't just go off quote unquote facts because there's going to be too many facts. You know how fast AI can create information? You can't parse all the facts. It's going to be impossible. No human being can think as fast as AI can generate material. So if you think the facts are going to solve your problems, you got another thing coming. So I'm just warning you all where the future is headed. The most valuable thing moving forward, everybody, is going to be your ability to think. What AI is doing right now, I'm going to give y'all this last piece before we go. What AI is doing right now is making it easier for people to not think, because AI is answering all your questions for you and is doing all your thinking for you, is writing emails for you, is answering questions for you, is doing research for you. And the future is going to make photos and videos for you. You can have a photo of yourself with a six pack and big muscles when you're actually fat and never been to the gym, and it's going to look like a real photo. AI is making it very easy for people to get lazier and lazier. So the opportunity in life, ladies and gentlemen, is always in the opposites. Looking at what most people are doing, the opportunity is in the opposite of what everybody else does. Most people are intellectually lazy. So the opportunity is going to be intellectual rigor, being a person who actually thinks, can look at all the information and decide for yourself based on actually thinking, not asking AI, but actually thinking for yourself. Doesn't mean you can't use AI. I use AI. I got ChatGPT and Grok on the front screen of my phone. ChatGPT and Grok. I use both of them. But I know how to think for myself at the same time. You use AI. AI is a tool. It is not your boss. It is your employee. I did a whole episode of my podcast talking about this exact thing. Let me just show you, just so y'all know. I got receipts on this stuff. All right. So I'm not just in here talking shit. All right. Things I just said. AI is your employee, not your boss. This is episode number 3,329. Did a 2-part series on this very thing. The opportunity moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, is for the person who knows how to think. There's always been an opportunity, actually. The thinking person has always been the opportunity. Is only going to become more obvious because there are going to be so few thinking people. The thinking people are going to be like the billionaires. You know, everybody's going after the billionaires now. 15 years from now, everybody's going to be going after the thinking people. Because 15 years from now, all of you are going to have a damn Google chip implanted in your damn forehead that does all your thinking for you. It takes pictures of everything that you see, and none of you is going to have a job, and nobody's going to be thinking. The people who are going to get all the backlash and all that, they're going to be the ones everybody hates, are the people who know how to use their brains and think. So please do not become a slave to artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is your slave. You are not its slave. That's where thinking is going to come into the game. All that being said, everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to go to 9:30. Sometimes I would go to 10, but we're going to start cutting these off at 9. Time is at 9:30, excuse me. Time is of the essence. So 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Monday through Fridays when we do these lives. Tomorrow we'll be talking again. Usually I do some kind of current event, so we'll see what the topic is. It doesn't matter, all right, because I'm a thinking person. I know how to think. I know how to parse information. I have some theories. I have some opinions of my own, but at the same time, I know how to think and look at situations. So if you enjoy my style, regardless of the topic, come back here tomorrow and we're going to do more of this on a different subject, something that's happening in the current events, as long as I'm free to actually go live on all these apps, because every once in a while I get suspended on TikTok. TikTok has suspended me 14 times over the last 10 months, 11 months for different things for different reasons. So I'm just trying to keep my language clean enough that I don't get suspended on TikTok again. But no other app suspended me, even though I'm live on all these platforms at the same time. So I'm on Instagram over here, X, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn are over here. I've never been suspended on any of these other apps except TikTok, even though I'm saying the exact same thing to all of them at the same time. So y'all figure that one out. All that being said, I need to buy TikTok. That's what I should do. Sugar, good morning. Should I buy a TikTok? I should buy a TikTok. How much they need? I'm going to call Jeff Epstein and see if he'll lend me the money. Me and Jeff Epstein can be partners and we can buy a TikTok. Anyway, we'll work on that today. If I get that deal done by tomorrow, then we'll talk about that. And maybe I'll have Jeff come on live and talk to y'all. But anyway, everybody, all right, I will see y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you go to the link in my profile. You can get links to my books for free, like the third day, and my coaching programs and my courses. All of that is inside of Work on Your Game University. I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TikTok. And that's that. I'll see everybody tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. We're out of here. Thank you for 100K likes, everybody on TikTok.